I grew up in Tiny Street and I wrote a book called The House in Tiny Street, Childhood Memories of District 6. And it tells the story of my life and my family up to my age of 22 when we were forcibly removed from District 6. When we were forced out in 1971, my father died in that year. My father died in March and we were forced out in December. And when we left District 6, nobody in our family spoke about District 6. We were all together. My one brother was married, George was married to Sylvia, and so it was my mother, was 7 of us that were still in the house, and I was the eldest at 22, and the youngest was about 8 years old. And so when we were in our house in the townships, we never ever talked about District 6. While for myself, I blocked it off. The move was so traumatic, and that I didn't want to talk about District 6. If people ask me, where did you live, before you lived in the township, I would say Cape Town. And I wouldn't say we in Cape Town because I didn't want to talk about District 6. So I just blocked it out of my mind, went on with my life and worked hard and got married, had 2 children. And sometimes I would see articles in the newspaper about the destruction, see how they demolished the place. And when I looked at it, it made me so sad. And when I met people on the street and from District 6, I would look at them, I feel so nostalgic and think back and tell myself, I can't even have a long conversation with this person because he must run for his bus, I must run for my train. And so just walking away from that person was also sad. And I was still working Cape Town. And then instead of me just walking up the road, in 10 minutes I would be home, but now I've got to take 1.5 hours before I get to my home. And then one day, there was this play, District 6 the musical. And the company that I worked for, everybody went to go see the play. And they were all raving about having gone and see the play. And one would tell the other one, so on and so on. And I would just sit on my seat and listen to them. And I never told them I lived in District 6. And this one day I decided I have to go and see the play 2 weeks before it was going to end. Booked my tickets, went to the play. But when I came into the Baxter Theatre in the foyer, I saw people of District 6. Remember when we were forced out, we never had time to say goodbye to each other. We didn't know where we were going to move to, nor did other people. They couldn't give us directions. We never had telephones. So we just didn't see each other. It was just like a cut-off line, And then I saw people that I knew and they knew me. And we reminisced and we were so happy to see each other and meet my husband and my children. And how it goes when you haven't seen people for sort of like almost 15 years. Now you see them all and so happy. Then David Kramer walked along and he stopped at the group, and I don't know what made me tell him. I said, I lived in District 6 and I've summed up the courage to come and see the play. And he said to me, he never knew me, he said to me, when the play is finished, will you wait for me? I want you to tell me how the play was. All right. So we went in, sat in the audience, lights went off, and there the play started, the performance started. It was fun, lots of laughter, lots of jokes, but as the story deepened, I realized this is my life, playing out here on the stage. It affected me so much that I just started weeping, and it was summer and my blouse was soaking wet from all my tears. Luckily the theatre was dark and no one saw, what I was going through. It was like, at that moment in the theatre, I acknowledged that I lived in this place. I acknowledged that the way we lived and we were forcibly removed. And so it was like a moment in my life where I accepted what had happened instead of suppressing it all the time and hiding it. You know, when I came out of the theatre, you know, the blouse was dry, I was fine, and then eventually David found me. He said, "How was the play?" I said, "You know, that was my life. Everything in that story is the truth. That is how it happened." But I've never told him what I experienced while I was sitting in the audience. When I went home, I couldn't sleep. It was like my mind was wide awake. It was like I just opened a volcano of emotion, of feelings, an eruption of everything that I, tried to hide. And I could have the pen and the paper and I started writing. Because my mind was now fresh and my memories were so vivid and alive. And for 3 months all I did was write. And the product of that play was the end result was my book. And having acknowledged it, and I then also let go of the baggage. I forgave the government for what they've done, not that I could ever forgive. And then from there, it was a turning point in my life where I learned what forgiveness was and how to move forward without being angry and bitter and hating white people for what they've done to us.